Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Backtrekking, the podcast where we look back at the real-world inspirations behind classic episodes of Star Trek. I'm one of your hosts, Caliban, and why bother inventing time travel to kill baby Hitler when you can clone him just as easy? I'm joined in this episode by my co-host.
Hi, I'm Gooey Fame, and you can't tell, but I'm giant Gooey Fame.
This is Gooey Fame 2, everybody.
Yeah.
We have returned to explore the stories behind your favorite Trek shows, and today we're taking something of a detour from that mandate, as we sometimes do. Today we're talking about a classic film and an episode of Star Trek the Animated Series that are both from the 70s and both deal with a very popular topic for that time, cloning.
Yeah, I guess there's some Nazi stuff going on there too, huh?
Yeah, we picked this as kind of a lark, but also knowing that there was one or two connections. But the more that I watched it and thought about it, I was like, wait a minute, there's a lot of like similar ideas flowing between these two things.
There was something in the air then, right?
In the 70s?
Like where
Yes.
people were thinking about it. And I think in both elements of this, you can see, in both the things we watched, we can see like things that hint at like that this was in like the back of people's minds, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. There was a lot in the air in the 70s, and
yeah,
some of it legal. But yeah, that's what we're talking about today. But first, let's talk about how are you doing?
I'm okay. It's storming out, so I'm nervous.
Yeah,
I'm
It
nervous.
was storming really bad where I live last night while I was trying to record a podcast, but just got to live through it. I'm really tired.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm on my fourth or fifth or sixth kind of wind or coming down off of that. You know, the quarantine happens. There's a pandemic going on. And maybe in a couple months in, you're like, man, I miss eating out and I'm kind of bored. I'm stir crazy. And usually, winter ends and the spring comes and you can leave. Or if you're on the couch too long, you get up and you do something else. But we're starting to see psychologically, at least I am, how I react when that's not an option. And you have to just change your attitude and get better. And then it happens again and you have to do it again. And I'm starting to fray. You know, this rubber band has been stretched long and short more than a few times.
I think the seasons, that's a good point to go along with this whole thing, because I feel like when things first really kicked off, it was spring, and it was like, okay, and it was getting warmer, and it was like, this is kind of bad, but it's like, at least you can go outside. And then it got worse because it was getting colder, and then it's just like, it took its toll even worse. But now it's doing a new thing where it's getting warmer again, to where it's like, oh yeah, and like the vaccines are starting to come around. You're like, okay, like it's almost, but like it's just like not yet. And it's just like that last little bit is like driving me a little bit more insane.
Yeah. It reminds me, I feel like Captain Picard in the episode Chain of Command 2, where David Warner's toying with him and he keeps making it seem like, it's almost over, but now you got to eat a little baby chicken out of an egg or something.
Right.
And then tell me how many lights there are. I've been, to counteract this, or maybe just to completely submerge myself in it, I've been binging a lot of TV shows, and I've been binging The Sopranos recently, and I knocked out like the first 4 years in about a week and a half.
Wow. Yes.
You ever watch The Sopranos?
I really want to. I really do want to. I've never seen it, actually. I know about some of the big things in it. I know the controversial ending or whatever, but
yeah.
It seems really interesting to me. But yeah, I just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the ending, because it's one of those cultural phenomena that goes along with the show. And I wouldn't, like, you're going to watch it anyway, so I won't dissuade you, but I wouldn't recommend The Sopranos necessarily.
Oh, really?
I don't think it's amazing. I think it was one of those shows that sort of heralded the beginning of what is now dubiously called the golden age of television. And it definitely has good parts, but I don't think as a show it outranks any other greatest show of all time candidates. It's probably about as good, maybe not quite as good as your Mad Men's, your Breaking Bads, your what have yous.
Oh, okay.
But it's okay. It's eminently bingeable. I'll tell you that much. Like it just keeps looping, and I keep watching it.
Yeah, I've just been. I don't watch necessarily a lot of TV shows, and what I've been watching, I'm just like rewatching Star Trek at all times.
Yeah, I'm doing that a lot too. Yeah,
because I'm always just like, what's going on? What the lore? Okay, what like I'm also sometimes thinking like, oh, this is like this movie. Maybe I should write that down.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm scouting for episodes.
Good to know that you're working on the side. I will say, though, as far as the quote-unquote golden age of television goes, if you look at another cultural phenomenon like the ending of MASH, the last episode of MASH, which has that really great scene, moving dialogue about Hawkeye, recovering this memory of having to smother a baby and just being totally distraught. And then, of course, what happens in the end of The Sopranos? Nothing. And it's famous for that. So I guess I wouldn't vouch for the writing being a lot better in the golden age of TV.
Well, I don't know. It's something I've always. I mean, I hear from a lot of people that it's good, so I'm definitely gonna watch it. I definitely want to see at least what it's about, even if you say it's not good. It sounds like it's worth at least knowing about for culture's sake, right?
I would think that too. That's one of the reasons I'm watching it. But as I'm watching it, and they're like, 9/11 happens in season 3, I think. And it's like, wow, is this culturally relevant like at all anymore? Just to get references I hear on podcasts, I guess, is the only reason that I'm watching it.
Very important, yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty important, I guess, for my own personal life. Well, speaking of what's going on right now, it's First Contact Day, or it was, on the 5th, and that's when Paramount decided to release a whole bunch of information about some of its upcoming properties, and I thought we'd talk about that a little bit. Probably one of the biggest things that we heard about was, or saw in this case, was we got to see a sneak peek at what Captain Janeway will look like in the show Star Trek Prodigy, which is premiering on both Nickelodeon and on Paramount Plus. And the secret here is that it is not actually Janeway. It is a hologram. It's an emergency training hologram in the form of Janeway. The show will take place in 2383, which is 5 years after the return of Voyager to home. And so we don't really know anything other than that. We can extrapolate a lot from that. But it will be this sort of young ragtag crew looking to the emergency training program as a guide and as support.
That's interesting. I mean, it makes sense they would make one out of her after she got back.
Yeah, I guess it does.
Like, she'd probably be like a hero, kind of.
Oh, no, she'd definitely be a hero. And as, like, the most intrepid, like, this captain who had to be a total Swiss Army knife captain and solve the greatest, odyssey of any Starfleet ship, getting them back, from the other side of the galaxy. We see her in the show. She is basically like classic Voyager Janeway with the bun hairdo. She's in her Voyager era uniform. No pips, because she doesn't have a rank, because she's not an officer. But I mean, she looks pretty good. She has kind of I think everybody on the series has this sort of elongated sort of style. I don't think that Kate Mulgrew is as tall as this figure is.
Yeah,
but...
I thought she kind of looked like a sim.
Yeah, there you go.
I was like not totally into the design.
See, I never played Sims, so that you just. Even the other alien characters kind of look like that too, and something was scratching at the back of my mind, but you just scratched that itch.
Yeah, they got a weird. Yeah, it's. Hers stands out more because she's like humanoid, Right. So that's the one that was like least inspired to me. It was like total sim. Where the other ones look kind of like, I don't know, not DreamWorksy, but you know what I mean. They look like kind of off-brand.
They look kind of DreamWorksy.
Yeah.
I think we talked about Monsters versus Aliens before, but yeah.
Do you think maybe it's like they want it to be? I don't know. Maybe this is like a negative reading of it, but it's like they can have it be this training hologram of her that's like kind of modeled after Voyager, because like if you had the actual character, like you don't have to like actually make any changes to the character. It's just like she's there, she's preserved, she will always look like her Voyager self.
Yeah,
and
it's pretty smart.
she can just like make some fun jokes and references to Voyager, maybe. But you don't have to do too much with the character, I guess.
Yeah, and it also raises questions that we'll discuss a little later on this show. Because with the creation of the Doctor and the fact that we've proven that if you let this hologram run for 5 or 7 years, it basically becomes, its own person. There are essentially 2 Janeways now.
Yeah, you would actually think that after they get back and like meet the Doctor, like that they'd be like, let's rethink this a little bit.
Well, they didn't for this, baby. Yeah, maybe she'll have some sort of some blocks in her processes or something that'll keep her from becoming fully sentient. But where would the fun in that be?
No, yeah, it's definitely going to happen. Maybe real Janeway will show up, and they'll have some weird episode with that.
So I can't say that I predicted this exactly, but I think I had an idea that she might not actually be there. She would be some kind of virtual creature. My bet was on the robot, that she was in the robot. So now I want to know, who's in the robot? Is that Okana?
Oh, I forgot he's supposed to be in this. Yeah, he could be in the robot.
Yeah, we'll put Bill Campbell in the robot.
I mean, you could do anything with it being animated, so I guess they don't necessarily have to put anybody in the robot.
They can, it's interesting, like, that statement that you made that you can do anything with animation. I'm both excited and a little depressed by that the application of that to this show. Like, I guess it's cool to get classic era Janeway on the show, but like you said, they could do anything. So
yeah,
having such a conventional character is a little bit disappointing.
Well, that's what I think, like, part of the negative side of it, like we've talked about with Picard, where it's like, you do have this character where he's like old and you're dealing with the aging thing, but then there's aspects of it where it's just like, it's a trip down memory lane type thing. But with this, it's like, what if you had that, but the character wasn't old and aging, and so you like, it's
just more of that character, more stories with them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you don't have to like put thought into like how would this character be now. And for, I think it's kind of for like, you know how like people were mad about how Luke Skywalker was in The Last Jedi, but like some people liked it because it's like, oh, here's like he's grown and changed. Well, what if Luke Skywalker could just always be cool in how you imagined him, which is what we're seeing a little bit.
That worked out great for Star Wars. We'll see how it works for Star Trek, because of course they've already figured out this hack. Lower Decks will return August 12th of this year for its 2nd season, and the Troy Rikers will be playing a large role in that season.
Yeah, I would imagine so, with what's his name on his ship. Could be fun.
So yeah, I mean, it's basically what you've already described.
And the Riker thing, like him, I liked him in Lower Decks because it was just like, it was kind of shallow, but it was like funny and like a little joke. But now he's going to be a reoccurring character, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, aren't you a director? Don't you make a lot of money doing other stuff?
I feel like he just loves being around.
He's super happy.
Which I love that for him,
Come back to the character. Speaking of people coming back to characters, Picard Season 2 has had a teaser trailer hit, and guess what? The big guy, Q, is coming back.
Yeah, he had a playing card there. I was like, all right.
Well, it's a queen, too. Cool. I don't know if that's the one that says Q, I guess.
Yeah.
There was something else in that I found kind of interesting, and I wondered if you would have a opinion as you're a DS9 fan.
Mm-hmm.
We see a couple different artifacts. None of them seem particularly, significant, but there is one. We see a tablet that's seen in a Deep Space Nine episode. That if I remember the episode correctly, I think they get this tablet and like Sisko's trying to figure out like what it says, and they're trying to like hack the language on it or whatever, and it's part of his like him being the emissary, and we see a smashed version of this tablet. Actually, it was smashed in the episode that it was in on Deep Space Nine, but it's on this table that Picard has.
Weird. I did not notice that. I wonder if that, does that mean anything, or is it just like a red herring, like fan teaser thing?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you've already pointed out, and I'm going to point out, I've already pointed out that you've pointed out that they are more than willing to tap the past casts for roles, especially when they can use them in ways that don't really acknowledge that time has passed for them. So why not have a glowing energy ball that has Avery Brooks's voice?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would kind of be, I feel like there's probably a lot of people who would always have wanted to see more between those two other than the pilot or whatever of Deep Space Nine. So,
yeah,
it's strange actually that it didn't happen, like at least once more.
Yeah, it's that's not a very good episode. It's the one where Kira and I think Jake get possessed by Pa wraiths and prophets, and they have a Dragon Ball fight on the promenade.
I do think there, like, speaking of trips down memory lane and this thing, in that teaser, like Q voiceover, he says like the test never ends or something, which is like a reference obviously to Farpoint and the
All Good Things
finale. Yeah, but like that, like that was the point of All Good Things, wasn't it? Like, because it was like, the test never ended. Maybe even that's from that episode. But I was like, I don't know. I was a little bit like, the test never ends again. Like, we know. I don't know.
It's more like our appeal to a certain demographic never ends, and so we have to keep bringing these characters in.
It was a little bit like, that was already the point. I don't know. Like, I'm not surprised that the test doesn't end. I don't know. It's stupid. I'm
probably going to pass it this time, though. This could be good. Good because
that might not be what they're going to do. So
I've gotten, in one way or another, I've gotten everything that I wanted since they announced that Trek would return to people's screens in 2016, and I've opined countless times on what I wanted to see and what I thought was going to happen. And it's kind of a monkey's paw, but everything that I've basically asked for has happened. We have seen they're setting shows, in the future of Voyager. Now we're seeing, the 2380s, 90s, and today, and the 25th century. And so we're getting what I wanted. And I guess one of the things that I wanted after seeing Picard season 1 was, it looks like the Federation kind of sucks now. And are we going to deal with that, or was it all fixed by Admiral Riker and his 200, duplicate ships? And I don't know. I mean, like, if maybe the test will be more of a personal one, maybe it'll be more of a societal one now. Maybe Q's like, you guys all suck. And of course, it's all metaphors for, how disillusioned we are with our current society in the 21st century. But hopefully maybe they can land it. What I want to know is how you're going to do it won't be a whole arc, but how do you do like a season-long Q arc?
I feel like there's a lot of shows now, which is also why I don't watch a lot of shows, that they take what could be the premise of one episode of TV and make a whole season of TV out of it. So I think they're good at stretching things. So I think they could probably stretch whatever premise it is and then have other things going on. Maybe Q puts him in some sort of TV show where he goes through different eras of sitcoms and has to deal with that every episode. You never know.
You're trying to piss me off. Maybe he loses his powers again and he joins the crew of La Serena.
Oh yeah, you could milk that for all it's worth. Yeah.
And I just wanted to mention that we did get a trailer for Star Trek Discovery Season 4, and nothing real specific. We've been told by Al Kurtzman that the threat will be less specific than having a big bad. We see them dealing with gravity problems or anomalies. And so we're not exactly sure what it looks like, but there's a new look for the crew, a couple new characters, and it looks like the adventure continues.
My prediction is that weird anomaly that's got them all messed up is like a metaphor for grief or something.
And the fault of somebody close to them or somebody on the ship.
Yeah. Someone's mom died And
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Somebody is dealing with the legacy that their parents left them, both personally and physically in the universe. Yeah, definitely for sure. So we'll see what happens with that. I also wanted to mention too that it was announced recently that there will be a new Star Trek convention next year in April Chicago.
In Chicago.
Star Trek Mission Chicago. Yeah.
I guess I don't have an excuse not to go.
Well, I'm going to be there, assuming it exists.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But it's a different company than the people that usually do like official Star Trek conventions. It's a company called Reed Pop, but they are pretty talented at putting on conventions. They do the Emerald City Comic Con, which is a great con. They do C2E2 in Chicago and a couple other cons around the country. So possibly this could be really good. You know, it always depends on who they get, right?
Yeah, that's true. You know, I've never been to any sort of convention, not any sort of convention ever. No comic book or video game or Star Trek or anything. So I mean, if I go, this would be my first one, and I feel like I should go.
That's interesting. Not for like video games or anything like that.
No, not. I mean, I've gone to other, I've gone to plenty of nerdy stuff. I've gone and seen like, the Zelda Symphony Orchestra play multiple times, and I've gone to all kinds of stuff like that. But yeah, I've never been to like a convention. So
interesting. This one is going to be at the McCormick Place Convention Center in Chicago, which is wow. They're really going for it. That's downtown. That's not even.
Oh, it's not even
out by Schaumburg. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're expecting this to be a real success, and I mean, I can't see any reason why it wouldn't be, but they're taking a big swing.
Okay.
So anyway, things are looking up for the franchise. I would never question the validity of the franchise, but sometimes I question whether I want to pay Paramount Plus every month.
Yeah, I had been going without because, most stuff's on Netflix. But then for this episode today, I was like, wait a minute. I forgot the animated series.
That's right.
Is only on Paramount Plus. So they got me. I think I'm the only person they've ever gotten by needing to watch Star Trek the animated series. But
I don't know why. I don't know. I guess I have to look into it. But I don't know what kind of deal Amazon and Netflix have with the Star Trek properties that they're still on there. You think it would be in Paramount's interest to call all the children home, and get all of their shows just in one place.
I feel like they
must have these huge, like, in perpetuity deals.
Yeah, my theory is that the animated series slipped through the cracks because, like, no one was like, oh.
Sure, yeah.
Netflix wasn't like, gotta make sure we have this. And then they're like, oh, right. That expired? Okay, well, whatever. People are watching Voyager.
Not as well known, and that's why we're talking about it today.
Yeah.
But let's get to our featured subject for this week's episode. The 1970s were a time of great change in America and across the globe. The war in Vietnam and the Watergate scandal led to widespread political disillusionment. The changing economy and international political tensions contributed to inflation and recession. But it was also a time of social progressivism and revolution, environmentalism, feminism, and spirituality. The world seemed poised on the edge of something both exciting and enervating. So what would be the worst way that we could fuck that up? By resurrecting Hitler, and no less than Josef Mengele himself attempted to in the 1978 thriller, The Boys from Brazil.
History has shown how one man with a dream can turn the world into a nightmare. Can history repeat itself? The Boys from Brazil starts where that nightmare left off. But for the dream to live again, 94 men must die. Gregory Peck is the architect of that dream. Laurence Olivier is the man who must destroy it before it destroys the world.
I remember hearing about this movie like a long time ago and thinking, okay, there's boys in Brazil or something like that. Like, I didn't know what it was about. And then I watched it and I was like, whoa, okay, that's what it's about. Why would you, like, I guess the title has something to do with what happens, but it doesn't describe, like, why not call it, like, Resurrection of Hitler?
That's what made it good, actually.
Oh, you think so?
So, because we picked this a while ago, and then I forgot why we were necessarily comparing it.
Yeah.
So I just kind of went into this movie knowing nothing about it, and similar to you, and it starts off so grounded. I feel like it feels it feels real, like a real thing, especially because it's based on things based in historical truth. And so I was like, okay, the boys from Brazil must be some like Nazis that are also in Brazil, because I know like they went to different South American countries or whatever. And then, like, slowly the movie kind of like, oh, something's not right here. Oh, this is kind of weird. And then there's, like, an extended sequence where they're explaining cloning. And I was like,
right.
Oh, okay. And then, like, in that, they're taking a while to get to it. But, like, then they're, like, getting to the reveal of who they cloned. And I'm like, come on, just say it. Just say it, guys. So
see, that's
loved
so
it for
interesting.
That.
Okay. I think that this is very much of its time, and it's something that I don't know if it works or would translate at all as well to a modern audience.
Yeah,
and for a lot of reasons. One, we can get into this a little bit later, but like, I think people were really interested in cloning in the 70s, and you needed a scene where a guy in glasses explains, what it is, and I think people were interested in Nazis in the 70s as well. It was sort of the first adult generation, past the end of World War II, and people who didn't literally have to choke some of these guys to death. Like, we're thinking about, let's think about the Nazis. What was going on with that?
The character even says that in the movie.
But it's also another thing where just the structure of it is set up in a way where the shoe is completely visible as it slowly plummets to Earth.
That's true. Yeah.
and this is based on a book by Ira Levin, and Ira Levin has a couple movies that were made off of his books that are all the same. So like Rosemary's Baby is a pretty good movie. I like it, but the whole time, like, we understand that she's going to have Satan's baby. She's the last person to figure that out, right? The Stepford Wives, it's like, are these wives robots? But the movie, like, just kind of lets you, I don't know if it thinks it's tricking you or if the shock and surprise is not its goal. But all through this movie, he goes to these houses. There's a little kid with a weird haircut, and it's the same kid everywhere. And Laurence Olivier is like, oh, that is so weird. It's like, come on, you idiot.
Yeah, well, I feel
He's cloning Hitler.
Yeah. Like, it wasn't until, it was like maybe the second boy or whatever, because that's when I kind of figured out. But that's actually kind of like into the movie a little bit, Yeah. And so like by the time, like, it definitely feels like it takes a lot of steps to like set this up for you, and maybe like more than you need. But I don't know. I felt like the way it rolled out, I was kind of like, it made it feel believable, I guess, to me. Like, even the scene, it's kind of a boring scene, but I thought it was pretty interesting where he's like explaining the cloning stuff, because I was like, it all sounded very plausible to me. I was like, okay, yeah. I understand how this works. Yeah.
That side of the science, cloning techniques may have evolved in the 2020s, but that's basically for a long time how they, had planned to clone smaller animals. I think that's basically how Dolly the sheep was cloned. Like, that's a real technique. That's real science. But just the whole structure of it, and some of that might be down to who's in the cast. I mean, obviously, Laurence Olivier plays Ezra Lieberman, who is based a lot off of Simon Wiesenthal, who we talked about on our Judgment at Nuremberg episode.
Okay, yeah. I remember they were like mentioning things that like were relevant to like the man in the glass box or whatever.
Yeah, right. Man in the
like,
glass booth.
Or glass booth. Yeah, I was like, okay, I kind of. It's like in the same universe. Who
in real life, I mean, he definitely was. He founded several foundations, for survivors and also for, looking for Nazi war criminals. He, was the survivor of several concentration camps himself. Like, he's the real deal. But his legacy is sort of patchy in terms of what he actually contributed to finding some of these guys. Like, he assisted in the finding of Adolf Eichmann, but he really, aggrandized his role in that.
Oh, okay.
And then there were a couple things where he claimed to do stuff that he didn't really do. For a long time, he was kind of like a watchdog of German politicians, because a lot of these guys just took off their armbands and they just kept doing politics. And
right.
So occasionally, a government would come into power and he'd go, this guy, that guy, and that guy were all party members. And so he would sort of get in trouble with the government for that, and they would blame him. They called him like a fascistic Jew, which is like, okay, all right. I think you should be able to see the inherent contradiction there.
That's a classic
sure.
move, actually.
Yeah. But this is one of Olivier's last movies. He was not well making this, and so I think
he
that
seems sickly, actually.
Yeah. He would be the hero of this, right? But he can't do all that much. Then you've paid for Gregory Peck. You're going to use Atticus Finch. You know what I mean? So Mengele, I think, is in the movie as much, if not more, than Lieberman. And that completely kills any mystery. Normally you would just be cutting to a shadowy figure, or we'd be seeing that they're doing something, and then there's some kind of big reveal. But he's the other pillar of this thing. He's the other side.
Yeah.
It is a co-starring Peck and Olivier.
I liked his character, though. I think, oh man, you're gonna hate this comparison probably, but it reminded. I recently watched the third Resident Evil movie.
Okay, this is the one where they're in the desert?
Yes, and the character in that of Dr. Isaacs has a similar story where he wants to get Alice and because he cloned her or whatever, and he wants to do his mad scientist stuff, but Umbrella and Wesker are like, no, this is too much of a liability. We're shutting you down. And you almost start... I don't start rooting for him in this one, but you almost are like, come on, let him do his evil plan. And that's kind of what happens here. And I just find that such an interesting story where it's like, even the bad guys, even the Nazis are like, we gotta stop doing this, man. Not for any good reason, really.
Do a podcast with a video game movie guy, and Umbrella was right, because at the beginning of the next movie, all the Alices come in and they blow up the whole facility.
And it's also the reason him going out to get her is totally dooms him in that movie. But...
Why do I know these dumb movies? Okay, I guess that's a good comparison. But in that case, I think instead of having Peck be like a sniveling villain. Boy, and maybe in the 70s this is too much to ask for, but make him more sympathetic. It's clear that he is just a maniac from
that's true. That's true.
In between him choking out the one guy at the ball, and having the necklace of jaguar claws or whatever, it's he's clearly not somebody to root for.
In this I was definitely not rooting for him. I was kind of just liking he's just insane, which I liked. I liked when he was going and having those flashbacks and stuff, and I was like, this is sweet. But I will say, I enjoyed it, but on the level of this is kind of really schlocky and silly. I think I was just more favorable to it because I was I'm really liking watching this weird old movie I've never heard of.
I think that all fits, not only for the 70s and schlock cinema, but also Ira Levin's work. Levin was kind of the Michael Crichton of his time, although I guess they were contemporaries.
Okay.
But Levin was the guy whose movies actually got Academy Award nominations, and Crichton was off making schlock like Looker and I don't know, Jurassic Park.
He eventually got his heat back, so that's fine.
Yeah, he definitely got his heat back in the final stretch. But
he won out.
Levin was the guy making movies with Olivier and Mia Farrow and John Cassavetes.
In terms of, I wanted to address it because you mentioned it, but in terms of Olivier as the protagonist, I also just found him and the kind of the way he played him as kind of endearing, because he is this pathetic, frail old man, and he can't pay his bills, and I almost love that as the hero protagonist. But Because now he would be played by like Chris Pratt, and he would like talk to velociraptors or whatever.
Yeah. The first act, it would all be zipped up. We'd know that they're making Hitler clones, and then the third act is they reveal the army of Hitler clones, or the 50-foot tall Hitler clone, or whatever. I thought that his performance was really broad, though.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
Not unbelievable necessarily. And I don't really know what people thought, like the public thought of Simon Wiesenthal at that time. I know now we know that his legacy is complicated. But I think, definitely like he can't pay his rent. The patheticness of the character is important in sort of underselling him as a character. But I thought that he's just like doing like a dinner theater version of like of a German guy.
It is, it's a little wacky for sure. Very broad, true.
It's funny because there are some classic, heavy hitting classic stage and screen actors in this. Olivier, obviously, and Mira. Uta Hagen is in this thing. Denham Elliott's in this thing.
I kept being like, well, you know what? This might just show who I am, but I was like, oh, that's Aunt May. Oh, that's Alfred.
Alfred is it? Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, I'm like, oh yeah, these are all, and there's just all
Slugworth from Willy Wonka's in this.
Yeah. Oh, Steve Gutenberg.
And Steve Gutenberg, of course, yeah.
So I was all the lowbrow people I was catching up on. Well, they're not lowbrow in themselves, but the places I knew them from, I guess.
This is like the classic version of that game that's not fun to play anymore, where you're like, oh, looks like Mystique and Star-Lord are in a movie together.
Yeah, it's definitely not fun anymore. I think with the character and like his patheticness, it compounded a little bit. I got extra entertained just by all the scenes of like the Nazi guys talking about him and being like Lieberman, and I was like, I would love this to be like a James Bond-esque series where this pathetic old man goes globetrotting to like thwart these Nazi plans, because that's how it felt. It sort of felt like a Bond movie in that sense, where they're like, there's this weird global, like weird Nazi science conspiracy, maybe not Nazi, but like, I don't know. He just had that element of it, but like instead he's going to confront this guy at like surrounded by Dobermans. And I'm like, what's his plan now? I'm like really worried about this guy because like he can't do anything. I was like very nervous.
Kind of like a Holocaust he wrote type thing, where he's a Jessica Fletcher who's figuring things out, but he's going to need some Hale and Hardy co-stars to back him up.
I want him to get a Q and to get an M and all that stuff. And
I did read that he was, even throughout the filming and definitely in that last scene, like he was in really bad health, and so it made it difficult to film a lot of the action because just of how sick he was. And there was a part where he and Gregory Peck were shooting that scene, and they were both laying on the floor and just laughing about like how they're just two old men who have to shoot this dumb thing where they're shooting at each other.
It was very funny, like that whole last scene, that extended standoff where it's like both of them. I'm just like, imagine you come home and there's just these two bloody old men who can't even move.
Yeah. Just thematically, I thought there was confusion because, we talked about like the perception of a character, Lieberman in this movie, but Simon Wiesenthal in the real world, who is like seen as kind of a pathetic and a joke. But apparently, like, there's a world in this movie where it's all real. So there is giant Nazi parties being thrown in Paraguay, and there is literally like a cadre of ex-Nazi scientists, a fifth column that is conducting futuristic genetic experiments, and they're all terrified of Lieberman.
They were shaking in their boots.
This is almost like a Walter Mitty-esque situation where you feel like you're going to learn at the end of the movie that it was all a dream, him dreaming about his relevance still existing. But so the movie wants to have it both ways, and I think that weakens like both sides of it.
Oh, okay. I felt like he never did anything spectacular enough. He just did some like decent. He just went and talked to some people.
He talks to Aunt May and.
Yeah, but I can see what you mean, where it's like he doesn't like totally feel heroic or something like that. But
if Mengele had just like left it alone and not worried about him, then I don't know, maybe one kid with some dogs and a dark room would have learned that he was related to Hitler, but there'd still be like 85 other Hitler kids like across the country who just...
Yeah, well, I guess I never thought of like were other people, like he hadn't really gotten anybody else on board with this.
Yeah, I'm confused about what Mengele's plan is. I mean, it reminds me kind of I feel like they've done this in DC Comics a few times where you see a character who either through manipulation or just through chance, is like grows up rich, their parents die in some tragedy, and then they commit themselves to a cause. It might be crime fighting. It might be the opposite. It might be there's an annual where a criminal's parents are killed by cops, and so he commits himself to like destroying law and justice, and he's like the opposite number of Batman. And so I guess Mengele's plan is like to use the genetics of Hitler and then create he's got the nature side. Now he wants to create the nurture side by replicating the circumstances of Hitler's life. But that's not Hitler's dad wasn't killed by a car running into a pallet full of Coke bottles.
Yeah.
It's completely different.
I didn't know. I was like, maybe that did happen. No, I liked that it was like there was like an attempt at least to explain it, even though it's kind of bad, because it's like obviously you can't just they acknowledge this. You can't just clone someone and they're gonna be the next Hitler. So
right.
I like that there was some like kind of schlocky science behind it of like there's this aspect, but then there's a third element to that I feel like is more important, and he gives a little speech about it, but like the rise of Hitler also isn't just predicated on like one guy being totally like a total weirdo, it's like a societal thing and an economic thing and all this stuff. Like you'd almost have to like start destabilizing governments and stuff like that to like create the circumstance.
And not to go full Facebook liberal on you, but like, our last president did not have a life of hardship. He was never in the military. He has no artistic tendencies. He does have a domineering father. I don't know if he had a doting mother or not, but, it is a social movement that brought him into power.
Right.
It wasn't just his ambition.
And like they sort of acknowledge that, where he's like, people are interested in Nazis now more than ever. And I guess they showed that the one kid's dad is kind of racist or whatever. So I like it kind of pays some mention to that. And I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting.
It's like the movie raises the idea of the conflict or the disparity between nature and nurture, but it doesn't have anything to say on the topic.
Yeah. But I like on some level, just from like the goofy, like schlocky side of it, I can totally see like this crazy Nazi scientist thinking that like, yeah, if we clone a bunch of Hitlers, like that's going to be the plan. Like that's going to make sense. Like
with 94 Hitlers, maybe, yeah.
He's
maybe
like, the odds are good
two.
then. Yeah. I could just see him being so obsessed, that he thinks that that's a good idea. But I think the movie also believes that it could be a good idea.
What if you had a dog? Would you know its birthday?
No, I know some people do. Some people do,
but most people will get their dogs from a pound or from the pet shop.
Right.
I don't know. It's possible, I suppose. When else are you going to give him the little doggy cupcake?
It's my security question, actually, for logging in.
For your password.
Yeah. What's your dog's birthday?
It's interesting to think about like cloning in sci-fi and genre fiction and how we take it for granted. But up until this point, it was not a big thing. I don't want to say that this is the first major work, both the book and the film, to deal with it, but you don't see it much before this, and you see it a lot after this. In fact, there is a 1977 Wonder Woman episode, which would have been written after the book came out, but before this movie came out, about a cloned Hitler coming back and trying to take over the world.
Yeah, what do you think that's about? I mean, I guess it's just like you said earlier. It's like a generation later now, and so
yeah. Well, in the 70s, leaps and bounds were made in genetic engineering in the 70s. We began to understand a lot more about genetics and DNA, which had only been discovered, oh gosh, I'm a bad biology major, in the mid-50s, let's say. So genetic science hadn't been around that long. And if you go back and you look at, say, the original series of Star Trek, and a character like Khan, they talk about genetics, and they use those words, but it probably means something more like selective breeding or eugenics than actually somebody RX Soong went in and altered, the augment's DNA.
Yeah. So I guess, it just must have had to do with like that becoming more of a known thing, right? Like, I think the quote for the Star Trek episode that Walter Koenig had was like, "Oh, I saw it in the newspapers."
Yeah.
So, there was something in the air.
This would have been like, if this movie was made in the 50s or 60s, this would have been like frozen Hitler. Like the unthaw. Hitler was frozen.
And so where does like Mecha Hitler fit into this? Where does Wolfenstein come into play?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, Wolfenstein might be the Mecha Hitler trope originator.
Wow, visionaries, the Johns.
I'm trying to think back, way back. Yeah, the Johns. Way back when I first played Wolfenstein and Mecha Hitler came out. And I don't think that I immediately thought, "Oh, that's from a Wonder Woman episode." So yeah, that might be it.
I was too.
Congratulations, guys!
Yeah, I was scared.
Of course, since then, genetic plots have become widespread and stuff. I think that Jurassic Park is probably the most successful of all time example of something like that.
Yeah. The scene explaining the cloning felt a lot like in Jurassic Park.
Mr. DNA. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I guess there's something so novel about it in this that was appealing to me too. Like, obviously, it wasn't like the best version of this, but I was just like, wow, this is really quaint. So I kind of was I was charmed by the science fiction aspect of it.
Yeah. I think people became, we mentioned before that people, I think, became more fascinated with Nazis and examining, that part of our cultural history because of a detachment. This would be the first generation of people who didn't fight in a war. And there are, not only is social unrest leading to people protesting for good things, people are protesting for bad things. I'm sure that the neo-Nazi movements of Europe and, to be fair, America were probably gaining strength at this time as well. The producer of the film says, and I guess we have to believe him, he's the producer, that the film isn't supposed to be about Nazis. It's really about like cloning, and it's about the hatred that two men have for each other. And I guess I could see that, but I wish that they had leaned into that if they really wanted it to be about
the two main characters.
Yeah.
Okay.
That, like, and I'm doing a lot of the work for them, but like Mengele really hates Lieberman because he won't let Mengele and his other colleagues continue their work. And Lieberman hates Nazis for a good reason.
Yeah. That just, I feel like, I don't know, it feels like his main motivator isn't hatred of Lieberman, like it feels like he's very motivated from the start. So I just never got, and then with on the flip side, I felt like he hates them, but like that doesn't seem to be his main motivator. His main motivator just seems to be like, that's a good thing to do, and obviously he experienced it and stuff, but I don't know, it didn't feel like he was driven by his hatred or whatever. So I don't know. Yeah. That seems kind of weak. But it makes sense that he's like, oh, it's not about Nazis. It kind of explains the weak explanation of like, people are thinking about it now, or people are interested in it. Because wouldn't it make a stronger like thematic case if there were like reference to like neo-Nazis and like the seeds of that are still around, other than the guys that are hanging out in Brazil,
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, Mengele says, you're still chasing this down. People have forgotten about this. They don't care anymore. And that's as close as we get to the kind of social commentary you're talking about.
he says people have forgotten about it, but he also says, like, the time is right. People care about that. I'm like, okay. Like, that's why I thought it approached being interesting that, like, they at least showed that the father is, like, kind of racist, but, like, in a different way.
Yeah.
Like, that could have been interesting if there was more of that. Like, you see some more of the on the ground racist.
Yeah, if Mengele's like, we can switch to blacks, sure, we'll do that.
Or just like, yeah, just see some of the like more normal racists.
Yeah.
And see how that boy fits in with those societies or like those communities. I mean, but
that boy was played by Jeremy Black. This is his only film credit. Apparently he made this movie and continued to act as he got older and decided that he wanted to work on the stage instead. So he might still be acting on stage. I'm not sure, but he did a pretty good job, being a bunch of different kids. Although the film undercuts him and his work as a character by giving him the same stupid haircut and making him look basically exactly the same. Not one of these kids has like a buzz cut, or like shaggy long hair or a perm.
Yeah, maybe they just really wanted it's the same guy.
He drinks a little chocolate milk and then puts the glass down and he's got a little mustache.
He did a good job of being like a little prick,
Yeah, plus he's a little prick. Like, I don't feel too bad. Like, when he burns that list at the end, it's like, are you sure you want to burn that list? Do you remember any of the names?
Yeah, they were doing that to show, like, yeah, see, he's grown up to be a little prick.
Yeah, it also, I guess that's sort of the thematic payoff of the film, right? Which it doesn't matter because it's not like, all right. I'm going to fix this movie real fast. Here's the thing about Lieberman. We have no way into his inner life. Like, we understand that he is a former concentration camp prisoner and he's doing what he does, but we never get any scene that's personal for him where he lets us into like his life or his world or his uncertainties. And so if you had something like that, or if you had something where, let's say the reason that people don't think that he's a fraud and a fake is that he got one wrong, or he really pursued somebody who turns out they were never part of the Nazis or something like that. We have to see the deleterious effects of his obsession for there to be a payoff later on when he goes, if I am just a fraud and just an ambulance chaser, this is the best thing that could have ever happened to me. I have a list of 94 Hitlers that I could track down across the world. And instead he says, no, that's not what I want to do. They don't deserve this. I'm going to not pursue this. And all the bones are there in the film. Like, that's it. That is what it's supposed to do. But you just don't feel that so much.
It like approaches at times. Like, I even liked like the very ending where they just kind of have the kid kind of casually hanging out, and it just like kind of leaves you slightly with the thought like, like, what's he going to be like?
Yeah, that scene was not actually in the original release of the film.
Oh.
It was restored to the film in later versions.
That actually, I think, makes it kind of resonate a little bit more. It just leaves you with something to think about.
It has to leave you with something, yeah.
So, yeah, like, I do like that idea. And they approach it with the list thing of, like, you could... It is what you said, like, oh, if you could kill baby Hitler, would you? But like, what if it's 94 adolescent Hitlers? Like,
but the movie does. It's all about the chase. It never really asks that question, and even adding that scene back kind of undercuts the scene that we just had with him burning the list. Because yes, this is definitely the worst of the kids he's seen. I mean, he's got a racist father with killer attack dogs, but so if any of them are going to go bad, it's this one. But it does seem like maybe we should track some of these kids down if they're going to, be developing pictures of dead people.
What can you do? You can't you can't father 94 children,
I suppose you can't.
You gotta let nature take its course.
You have to let nature take its course. All right, nature versus nurture in the squared circle tonight. I
personally think like I liked the fact that like his plan, the evil plan, is actually kind of like stupid in that it like there's no way it would work, and like that to me that's what could have made it interesting if is like he kind of kept it under wraps and he had this obsession about it, and like they realize what he's doing, and they're like, this is not helpful to our movement at all.
Yeah.
And now we've got all these kids that we're attached to, and they're like trying to cut him off. Like that's what would make it interesting.
That's the new, or it's not necessarily new, but that's the, I think, evolved mad scientist character who is ostensibly working for an organization, but it's really to further his own pursuits and ends. You get that in Doctor Who with a character, which, by the way, I didn't mention this before, but Doctor Who was doing genetic, storylines in the early 70s before before Wonder Woman and all that. But like Davros is the creator of the Daleks, and he supposedly works for the Daleks, but he's got his kind of own agenda going on. Or a character like Arnim Zola in the Marvel universe, who is a scientist, a Mengele figure for Hydra, but also has his own thing that he wants to do, make super soldiers or whatever. Yeah, but that we don't really have that. If the Nazis canceled the program because they're like, "What are you doing? You're making 94 Hitlers? What? That's not what we want to do."
I kind of think that would actually be funny if they were like this.
Yeah, because maybe the guy in charge is like Stalin didn't want them to make 94 Lenins. That's the last thing he wanted.
Right. Yeah. So I could totally. Yeah, I could see
94 Trotskys.
Like, yeah, I could see he's just like so devoted to Hitler that he's like, no, I must, like his obsession with him or something. I don't know.
I got a half gallon of his blood, and I'm using it, baby.
I mean, that was actually kind of a cool part of the story. Where he's like, wasn't he like he let me have some or something?
Yeah, he gave me the blood, and then he took some of his rib meat or something.
Oh yeah, the biblical.
Well, I think that probably wraps it up for the boys from Brazil, and we will take a break for a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with more backtracking.
Okay, Caliban, are you prepared to take your Sailor Noob graduation quiz?
Hey, Hana, I'm so prepared for this. I learned fluent Japanese.
Impressive.
Arigato gozaimasu.
First question. The hero of Sailor Moon is Usagi Tsukino. What does Usagi mean in Japanese?
Rabbit.
Correct.
Yes.
Next question. As Sailor Moon, Usagi and the Sailor Scouts live and go to school in what Tokyo neighborhood?
Easy. Azubu Juban.
That's right. One more correct answer and you'll no longer be a Sailor Noob. The human form of the Cardian Leshy is tasked by Ail and Ann to gather life energy. What Japanese historical period are Leshy's human forms closed from?
What?
I'm sorry, the answer was the Heian period.
Bacana!
Better luck next time. But for all the answers, listen to Sailor Noob, where we discuss the food, fashion, and culture of Sailor Moon. Wherever you get your podcasts.
Watashi wa hazukashi. Okay, we're back. It's time to talk about the Trek side of this equation. When Star Trek was canceled in 1969, NBC already knew that they had made a mistake. The evolving field of TV ratings confirmed for the network what thousands of fan letters had already tried to make clear, that Star Trek was immensely popular in many American homes, and particularly within the coveted 18 to 49 demographic. It was, however, too late to reverse course, as the expense required to replace discarded sets and prop pieces and restart production would be too great a loss on the network ledger. So we got the next best thing, Star Trek The Animated Series, a weekly cartoon featuring most of the original cast for the original series, with scripts by Roddenberry and many of TOS's previous writers. As an American cartoon, TAS was aimed more at children than the family tone of TOS, and the work of the series producer Filmation often left something to be desired. But the 2 seasons of TAS represent to many fans a continuation of the Enterprise's original 5-year mission, presenting scientific plots and ethical dilemmas in the idiom of Star Trek, as we see in the 7th episode of the first season of TAS, The Infinite Vulcan.
Captain's log, stardate 5554.8. Plant life of extraordinary intelligence and technology. They have captured Mr. Spock, apparently under the orders of a human named Caniculus.
A human came. He brought sickness and death.
Something's happened to his brain. Electrical activity decreasing.
It's too late, Captain Kirk. In a few minutes, your friend will be gone.
Kirk to Enterprise.
It's no use, Jim. He'll be dead in a few minutes. His mind is gone. He no longer thinks. This machine has drained his mind somehow.
Murderer! You've killed Spock!
Behold, gentlemen, the dawning of a new era. Spark 2.
So we've talked about TAS on the show before. We probably talked about the wackiest TAS episode, but this one's kind of up there too.
I feel like it starts very high on the wacky meter, and it's very funny and very fun, and you kind of like mellow with it by the end, or like it kind of dips down. We're like, okay, and now they're just hanging out on the planet, but then Big Spock comes back, and you're like, okay, this is cool again. So
yeah,
I'm always just kind of like pleasantly surprised by these because they're just wacky enough and simple enough. Well, simple, but also like containing a lot of like story and sci-fi stuff that would be in like a regular Star Trek episode.
Yeah, there aren't a ton of animated series episodes, but like a lot of them really are. They're very breathless often because they've taken something that I think you absolutely could have done as an hour script and like
easily
squeezing it into 22 minutes. Yeah, you just put a couple scenes in with hanging out with Bones or something, and you've got an hour-long show. And this, as you mentioned before, one of us talked about before, this is ripped from the headlines because it was written by Walter Koenig, the actor behind Chekhov, who was the only guy not asked back for the animated series because of apparent budget concerns.
we can't afford Walter.
No, and at the time, he was working on being a screenwriter. He actually wrote a handful of scripts for other genre TV shows at the time, and so this was sort of like a perk given to him to pitch something for the show, and. I mentioned this somewhere else. I'm not sure if it was on another show or another podcast. Who can tell anymore? But this has a quality that is so Star Trek. I think I've described this as fanfic before, but in the best way.
Okay,
it's so clear that Walter Koenig, as a writer and as somebody who was on Star Trek for 2 years, he understands these characters really well. He knows what goes in a Star Trek episode. He knows the kind of themes that a Star Trek episode would explore. And he gives everybody something to do. Even Uhura has a great run in this episode.
This has kind of an ensemble quality that I feel like you don't get as much in TOS.
Yeah,
and like really didn't happen until some of the movies with these characters.
Yeah, and everybody has something to contribute to what's happening,
and it's fun. And they have some good. It's not even just like small things they do, but there's just kind of like little quips and interactions that usually are just saved for the trio, but you get some stuff with like Sulu and stuff where they make little jokes, and I was like, oh, that's cute. Like a little, what does he say to Sulu?
Oh, let's just tackle that right now. So yeah, at the end, everything goes great. 22 minutes, and the last 10 seconds they have to fuck up. But like, they get attacked by the Felosians, and Sulu does a hip toss or something to one of them, and then later Kirk is like, hey, you got to teach me that body throw, and Sulu's like, well, you have to be inscrutable to know it. And inscrutable is like one of those adjectives that has been given to Oriental people throughout the years as kind of a dig.
Oh, okay.
The inscrutable Oriental figure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, it's one of those things where it's like, it's better to just not do it because I know it's Sulu saying it about himself.
And he twists
then Kirk makes a joke because Kirk's like, you're totally scrutable, dude. Don't worry about it. And they wink at the camera, but it's like, but why do it at all?
Okay. See, I didn't know that. So I was kind of divorced from that.
Oh, okay. I'm glad that I could tell you that then. It'd be like saying, as a communications officer, Uhura, you're very articulate.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I viewed it as okay. Well, okay. Well, at least there was an attempt at that.
An attempt was made.
But I guess my point with it was like they don't normally have like banter with Sulu unless it's like every once in a while. It's like, oh, he goes Three Musketeers on everyone or whatever,
right?
But,
or like in Shore Leave where he just finds a gun. He just starts shooting the gun.
Yeah.
Hey, I found a gun. Okay,
stop
Sulu,
giving Sulu weapons.
Yeah, he always has weapons. Yeah, there's just so much in this episode that is so creative and fits right in the alley of the things that were introduced by writers like Carlin Ellison and Theodore Sturgeon and all these like great writers for the original series. A race of plant creatures, which I don't think we ever saw in the original series. That's very unique. The idea that they are these long-lived creatures that were decimated by there's so many hats in this episode. They're decimated by the arrival of a human who gave them, like a War of the Worlds situation. He gave them bugs that they couldn't handle. Also, he was a geneticist from the eugenics wars.
Yeah.
And this is all before, Star Trek II. Like, we've only got Space Seed to go off of. So a guy that was thrown off of Earth in the eugenics wars shows up on this planet, helps this race stay alive for all these years, and then he shares their goal of wanting to create a military force that would impose peace on the universe. This is like a hat store's worth of ideas.
Yeah, which I think sticks out more because it is 20 minutes. But
I mean, even if 50-foot tall Spock.
Yes, and even if you had the time, though, it would be weird. It is kind of weird. That's like, they mix all these random elements, but that use of the eugenics wars is exactly what you were saying about like the fanficky nature of it. It does feel like, let's have another like eugenics wars character in it, but it doesn't feel like forced or whatever. Like that, it's just like, hey, it doesn't feel like when Brent Spiner shows up for the millionth time as a Sugan character or whatever, and you're like, okay. Because it was like a different guy, and they're not going like, they never mentioned Khan really, I don't think. And, there's no like winks or nods. It's just like, yeah.
What would that be like? It's funny too, because that means that like Star Trek II is like a third times the charm, with the character of Chekhov actually interfacing with figures from the eugenics wars, because he's not in Space Seed. And then Walter Koenig is writing this episode but not in it, then he finally gets to meet Khan in Wrath of Khan.
I so badly want to hang out with them.
Just heard that guy's cool. He loves Moby Dick.
He really just wanted to hang out with Ricardo Montalban.
It's weird. I love Spock too. I love the idea that he and Caniclius are just giant, but why make yourself giant? Like just for the hell of it?
He's superior? He's stronger? I don't know.
It's definitely visually distinct, and I guess since it's a kid's cartoon, you can just do whatever you want. But yeah, what's the advantage of being 50 feet tall?
I loved it for how like batshit it was. Like, yeah. I was slightly disappointed because I've always known about the giant Spock episode and I'd never seen it. And I thought they were gonna, like, similar to how they encounter Abraham Lincoln, like I thought they would encounter giant Spock in space and like maybe have like a space battle with the giant Spock and he'd be like throwing fists, or something. I wanted to see him punch the ship.
Yes.
Or Vulcan neck pinch or whatever. The Enterprise.
We've lost power.
He's just got one of the nacelles. So I was disappointed by that, but I was just like, wow, this is so weird that he's big. And then he starts like conversing with Spock, and I was like, that was really fun. It was so goofy.
Yeah, it's a little jumbled, like what actually happens, because
I couldn't tell you what they talked about.
Caniclius or Caniculus or Caniclius, I think every actor says it differently. He can clone the body, but he can't recreate memories, so he needs to transfer the mind, and so he transfer. Oh wait, I guess it's not that complicated. He transfers Spock 1's mind to Spock 2's mind, but then Spock 2 one finger mind melds his consciousness back to.
I lost it at that.
Even before Star Trek 2 and 3, with the whole idea of the Katra, that's kind of here too.
The Vulcan mind touch.
Yeah,
that's what they called it. Yeah, that was so wacky. Yeah, that was awesome. When he started doing that, I lost my mind. That was great.
Yeah, and him talking to himself later, he's like, well, we'll just do this. Oh, I thought you might say that, Mr. Spock. Well, that makes sense, Mr. Spock.
That was hilarious. Yeah. Good. That was good stuff.
And you've got Kirk, who, is often derided by Spock for not being very logical, once again, using logic on his first officer himself. What is the logic in creating a giant Spock and letting the other one die? Tell me, sir.
I was asking myself that question, much like you were. Why'd they make him giant?
Yeah. And of course, when you've got plant creatures, then, it's a cartoon, so somebody has to come up with anti-plant spray. But they're able to couch it in the terms of my great-great-granddaddy had a special blend for his garden in the South.
That was so the shark repellent, like very Batman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Goofy in only way like the early 70s, late 60s or whatever, like that era kind of is a bit more cartoony, comic booky stuff.
It would be if the mystery gang met a plant monster, they would fill a giant, pump sprayer up to fight it. Never mind the fact that the plant monster would be revealed to be Old Man Withers at the end. It would still work on him for some reason.
Did they ever meet Star Trek?
That's a great question. I don't think so, because that's Hanna-Barbera.
Oh, right. It was okay. That actually would make a lot of sense. That would be pretty fun.
A contest of champions, Shaggy and Spock.
They make them taller. Yeah. Would that be
50,
great? If
Oh no, we don't need 50-foot Shaggy. Forget that.
What if they just made him a little bit taller? And it's just all right, you're now 7 foot tall.
What, like Luke, the taller Luke.
Yeah, taller Luke. Exactly.
Just taller Spock. That's where they got that from. Where do you get a 50-foot uniform? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, see, there's so many things they could deal with if they.
Caniclius is just he's just tied a giant curtain or something around his waist.
They cloned the uniform.
This guy's good. He understands the secrets of cloning clothing. Yeah, it's just a fun romp with a little bit of stuff to think about. I like the fact that the Felosians who have unripe upside down raspberry heads.
Yeah.
They're really forthcoming. They're clearly a very analytical culture, but also they're super devious. And I don't know if they experience deviousness the same way that humans do, but twice they just totally screw over the crew. A second time they're okay, sorry about before, we'll help you out. And then they just ditch them in this tunnel and let the screaming dragons come after them.
Screechy dragons. I hated those. Man.
Yeah, they're so weird in their weird wormy arms.
Yeah, it was kind of the thing about the animated series is if there's a chance for them to have a really weirdly designed thing in it, they'll take it, because I feel you can't. It's harder in the regular show where it's just put a horn on a dog or whatever.
Yeah, right.
So this is even though you can see all the places they cut corners, or the budget, was not big for the show, where it's okay, well, we'll draw something real freaky here.
Yeah.
I always appreciate it.
There's a confused TAS represents, for me at least, a kind of transitional form between the morality of TOS and TNG. And a lot of times in TOS, something will happen and it conforms completely to what American foreign policy or American morality would be in the 60s. But modern viewers are what? Why is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to go to women can't be starship captains, but just something like when they're still kind of going off the great man theory of history, where Khan tries to kill everybody on board and kill Kirk, and at the end they're he's just misunderstood. I wonder what good things he'll get up to, when we leave him on this planet to start again. Whereas no, that guy goes to jail. We got to get rid of that guy.
I think that's fine too for enjoying that as its own show, but it just gets weirder when the continuity of the show grows more into that, and then you're thinking,
and time passes on the show too. TNG is 80 years after
that's
TOS,
true. Yeah.
But in this, their answer to the idea that not only the plant people, but also this convicted criminal from Earth's, one of Earth's worst periods of war. They both want to create like stormtroopers to like take over and impose peace on the universe. And their response isn't, well, I guess it's kind of, that's not a good idea. The response is, oh no, we've got that. That's what Starfleet is. We have that already. You don't have to do this.
They give them a job, don't they?
Well, they put them to work later to, I guess, continue to help restore the Falosian civilization, but they're never really. I guess near the end of Kirk's entreaty to Spock, he brings up the idea of Idic, and also he just posits to him that like you can't impose peace on people, but their immediate first response is, "You don't need to do that. We've got space cops already."
Yeah.
We did what you guys are from the past. We did what you wanted to do, and I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Yeah, I don't think it's as aware at the time as how much they are like this is like space colonialism or whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. No, we got that running already. Don't worry about that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just what it was.
I just like I got guys like Khan. Maybe Flint. I'm thinking of other TOS characters who would be villains in a modern sense are just misunderstood heroes. And we get that with Caniculus too, who we can only assume was up to no good on Earth. But all he wants to do is just help people. He's just going to do it his way. And if that's not fascism, I don't know what.
Yeah, if this one really cool, big, tall guy,
yeah, right.
Let him do what he wants.
Apparently was based on Walter Koenig's look at the time.
Oh, cool. Good.
I don't know if Walter Koenig came in a loincloth, but like
he modeled for it, yeah.
But Walter Koenig was losing his hair at the time, and maybe he was growing it out a little long because it was the 70s. But apparently he looked kind of like that.
Did they let him? They should have let him voice the character. Like they needed someone who voiced him.
So that was proposed initially. It did not come to be, and Walter Koenig, I love this episode, and I'd like to see more writing from him. He's actually written a couple books that I haven't read, but I want to. But it soured him on writing any more animated series episodes because he didn't have a good time doing it. Aww. And the funny thing is we talk about how much he knew about the world of Star Trek, but apparently he wasn't paying attention to the writer's room because Roddenberry constantly rewrote people's scripts and took credit for stuff and meddled in things. And now on the other side of the camera, Koenig experienced that and was like, yeah, I'm not coming back. I'm not doing that again. But he was supposed to voice that guy. And he has said, after the fact that he doesn't feel like it was ever really a serious offer.
Oh.
So it is voiced as all characters who are not the main cast are by James Doohan.
That's what I was going to ask. All right. Well, okay. As long as they did that, if they paid someone else, I would have been mad. Oh no, they would. This is the animated series. They would never pay anybody else to do anything. Yeah. So Agmar, Caniculus, they're both voiced by Doohan. The voice of the computer is voiced by Nichelle Nichols. Legend. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I get the vibe from Walter Koenig that when he was on the original series, that he's just like, I'm happy to be here.
Sure.
It's just like, cool, working on a TV show.
Yeah, so, it's a weekly TV show, sure.
I don't know what, there's just some, like, maybe it's just like he has a youthful energy about him. But
that's why they brought him on board, gave him that monkey's wig.
Yeah, it just feels like, maybe he wouldn't be aware of, maybe other people not having fun.
Screaming coming from behind the wall.
Yeah, he's like, what do you mean, guys? What's going on?
Well, Gene Kuhn looks really mad. I wonder what that's about. Yeah. So the final question that we need to answer about this episode is, when are we going to see Spock 2 again? Come on, Lower Decks.
Lower Decks is the best venue, huh?
There is a genetically modified and arguably superior Spock out there. We lost our Spock to the Kelvinverse, but you've got a Spock.
You know how you make it real emotional? Is he shows up in Discovery. He's like, I've been out here for
forever. A 50-foot tall Ethan Peck.
Yeah, exactly. They go to that planet in the future, and he's still thriving because he's like a super...
Sure, he's Spock 3 or maybe 4, but sure.
Yeah. He's just they've cloned him even bigger. He's planet size. He is the planet.
He's neck pinching planets.
Oh, and they're like, yeah, we found the only way that these plants could continue to survive was if we used my body as the planet.
Made Spock even bigger.
And he's like big and mossy.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, and that way they can get that dude back on the show. He probably wants. Well, I guess they have that other show coming, so he's probably busy.
It's funny that I think there's a debate. Or is there a debate? I don't know. I'm going to posit a debate where Kirk and Spock represent, the soul, maybe the two halves of the soul of the franchise. But Spock is definitely the one that we've got the most use out of, don't you think? I mean, I think it's significant that they brought the Pike crew back, which of course would contain Spock, and William Shatner's out there. And I don't think TV producers necessarily care about a person's shit talking on Twitter. Isn't it amazing that we haven't had William Shatner back on the show yet? Even if we recast him, I know that he was in the Kelvin films, of course, but he doesn't seem to be a part of the franchise going forward. But Spock is in a huge way. And so the reason I bring that up is A, when are we going to have Shatner voice something? And B, we got to bring Spock 2 back. Come on. He literally, his Katra out there. His body's out there. He literally exists.
It's logical to bring it back.
It is eminently logical.
How is it logical to not make this character and not bring
Tell
it
me,
back?
sir. Yeah. No kidding. Well, you need technology to clone people, and technology makes Trek. It sometimes facilitates what the characters are doing. Just as often, it's the complication they're dealing with. On every show, we randomly pick from a list of Star Trek technologies, and we add what we get to the non-Trek media, we subtract it from the Trek episode, and we see how each is different. We call this our technological exchange. And on our list of technologies, we have 10. We've got phasers, holodecks, tricorders, transporters, warp drives, replicators, communicators, shields, advanced medical technology, and androids. And if we roll on our random number selecting device, we get 2 holodecks. Well, that's a left field one. So if holodecks existed in the world of the boys from Brazil, how would it be different?
Holodecks in any historical drama, I guess, provoke a lot of things, but
I think that Lieberman would use one to organize his data, so he could do the shield briefing type scene. But as we've seen, all of his shit is run down and waterlogged.
Water would be coming in,
so it wouldn't work really well. Yeah, and he'd have to kick the computer to make it show the right face or something like that.
I like that there would be parts of the holodeck that the water is making spark. It's oh, don't stand there.
and his location is in the city of no, and then the water hits it and they lose the data.
Okay. This is pretty good. Oh my gosh, the Nazis could really recreate the paternal settings for the baby Hitlers by just Truman Show simulating his whole life.
Oh my God, yeah.
Then they put
the babies in a Matrix VR simulation of living in late 19th century Austria or whatever.
Oh, and then okay, and then there's some anti-Nazi hunter who did figure this out a long time ago, and he got one of them, and he put him in the opposite holodeck program to make the most empathetic, caring person you ever could.
And that man was Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. Oh no! Well, then he has to hunt down the evil Adolf Hitler, and it's Adolf Hitler, not Face Off because they're the same guy, but
right.
Yeah.
No, it's a Rick and Morty situation where you've got 20 different Bernie Sanders. You got the cowboy Bernie Sanders, the pirate one, the robot cyborg one from the future.
Oh yeah, okay. I like this. Actually, you make an army of Bernie Sanders. They all appropriately still have the clothes chair. That
yeah, right. Yeah.
Like, we couldn't get rid of that. He's messy a little bit.
Yeah, it keeps repeating itself in all iterations. They're going to kill Nazis and get health care for everybody.
Aw. Yeah, see, we made a nice story out of that.
This is kind of a tough one because there's just, I mean, there's no holodecks, obviously, in Boys from Brazil, and there's no holodecks in a TOS episode, but I think we can pull this off.
Oh, yeah, in TOS, that's tricky, or TAS or whatever.
You really nailed it, too, with just the idea of trying to create an environment, because that's really what they're trying to do for the baby Hitlers is, replicate Hitler's experiences. So I think that if we can, it doesn't even have to be holograms necessarily, but if we are talking about like a simulated environment, then that would definitely serve Mengele's plan of trying to recreate, the life of Hitler.
Mm-hmm. I could see, wow, what if there was, instead we see the movie from the child's perspective, and this is like a Black Mirror. It's like that one where that one woman is like being punished over and over and she doesn't remember. Mm-hmm. Instead, we see it just from this kid's perspective of they're raising him to be the next Hitler. But it's like, what's going on? His life is kind of weird. And then he like breaks out and realizes like, oh yeah, we're trying to make you like a genocidal fascist leader or something.
Oh, okay. Just since we're just like pitching different movies.
Yeah, exactly.
What if the entire thing is a simulation? They've got old-ass Lieberman locked in a simulation.
Oh, my God.
Of a world where the Nazis lost World War II, and he's trying to hunt down, former Nazis, when in the real world, the Nazis won the war, took over the world, but they're trying to, like, they're trying to track down like the resistance, like the non-Nazi people who are fighting against the Nazis.
And he's got key
to do
info.
Well, he's got the info, but they also want to study the mind of a guy who tracks down people. Oh, and so he eventually wakes up out of the simulation and realizes like that he, oh my God, the McDonald's is the golden swastika or whatever.
This reminds me of that TNG where like you think the Romulans are doing that to Riker, but then you just find out this like alien boy.
Yeah, it's just a kid. Yeah, it's just a kid screwing around.
That should be the end of this too. There's just like a weird Hitler boy, and he's like, I just wanted a dad.
Let's beam up to the Enterprise with Hitler boy. Okay, so what about if we take, I guess, the idea of simulation away from the episode The Infinite Vulcan?
Yeah, taking it away is tough. I mean, you could do stuff if you added it in, but taking it away, there's just not that's just not going on in the animated series.
I'm trying to think of all the TOS episodes that involve simulated environments. Something like Shore Leave.
Yeah.
Maybe Cat's Paw. Yeah. The Squire of Gothos.
You would maybe, because maybe they replicated that uniform, you'd maybe have a naked giant Spock.
You could. Yeah, okay.
You couldn't replicate
I can see that. Maybe in planning their universal conquest, both the Philosians and Caniculas, they wouldn't have simulations. They wouldn't have access to computer simulations. Often on TOS or any Star Trek show, they go, what would happen? Run a simulation on that Spock. And then Spock comes back and says there's a 94.8% chance that the moon will impact with the planet. They wouldn't be able to project things. They would have to go with old trial and error like we do, or like we used to have to do. So
Not
maybe
so
you would have, maybe you'd have a Spock 1.5, and that Spock is like 3 feet tall. It's like, no, we didn't get that right.
Whoa, that'd be cool if they showed up to a planet of like varying size Spocks. I'm like, oh, this one has blonde hair. I don't know.
All right, everybody line up. Yeah, this one's got blonde hair. Surfer Spock.
Oh yeah, different personality types are like
You got like really fussy, neat Spock. Then you got like messy
Jock
Spock, slob, Jock Spock,
Goth Spock.
Yeah. Then you got like Nazi Spock.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That'd be. Isn't that like no? The Mirror Spock was kind of like that, right?
Well, he was goatee Spock.
Yeah,
but they've got patterns of force where they dress up like Nazis.
Oh, yeah. That could be a thing. They go through all the the historical Spocks that have existed.
Yeah.
Like it's a mobile game and you're collecting all the Spocks.
I'm sure they have that in that one Star Trek game.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Every Spock that's ever been on screen. We might have met our match.
Yeah, I'll tap out on this one. I'll tap out. I don't think it's possible to change this episode.
That is a rough one.
Could they make the bug spray? No. Yeah, they'd be
maybe
fine.
it would just play out the exact same way.
Maybe, yeah.
Only with 10 times as many screaming dragons.
I think I've had enough of those.
It's so Filmation. They had a screaming sound effect, and they just hit that button over and over.
The same. You mentioned the cheap animation and stuff, like they reused it, but like it was even worse, where it's like you could often just see like the dust on the animation cell.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh man, that's rough. Like I could do a better job, I think, and I have no idea how to do this.
That might be more an artifact of the digital transfer.
Needs to be updated.
Yeah, just old film.
Okay.
I gotta say though, I've seen Warner Brothers Animation and their DC properties used to be the chef's kiss premier form of cartoon entertainment. Batman the Animated Series, all the way through their Justice League properties, and then all those guys who made those shows, went off to do other things. But we're not going to stop doing DC cartoons, and so now DC just continually like farts out these like sad, 90-minute films designed to just get the fanboys to buy a Blu-ray, and they're bad. Like
I've only ever seen like the previews of them, but I'm like, it's so weird. And when I see someone I know share it and be like, "This is coming out. It's based on this comic I like," I'm like, I feel like you're really just buying this for the name.
That's how they
like garbage.
That's how they move them. And sure, the detail and the design of the animation is, more advanced than this. But even like I was watching one of those previews the other day for like a Wonder Woman movie, and the characters don't move at all. In fact, like Wonder Woman is like saying something, and they show a reaction shot, and it's like a freeze frame. Like the characters aren't moving or listening to her or acting with their faces or reacting. And I'll give it to the animated series of Star Trek. They definitely did their best to make the characters look like the actors and to have them try to react to things, even if it was using the same 12 cells that was like, oh, I'm surprised, like over and over again. Like they are trying to do a drama here.
Yeah. I'll give it that. There's definitely still a lot of care put into this, and I think we talked about it too with the stories. Like, yeah, they're trying.
Yeah. Well, I don't mind that we got skunked by the animated series, because I love it when we talk about the animated series.
Yeah, it's a treat.
Well, what are we talking about on our next show?
All right, so on our next show, we are talking about some Voyager, which I'm pretty excited about. We're talking about the episode Barge of the Dead, which and how it compares to the movie Flatliners.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
And I believe that our selection of Barge of the Dead was contingent on Mother's Day coming up.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be Mother's Day. By the time it comes out, it'll be like the next week or something. So,
yeah.
Say hi to your mothers.
Flatliners is a classic Joel Schumacher film, which is not, I feel like it has kind of fallen through the cracks a little bit. I don't think people really remember or talk about Flatliners much.
People don't remember it, but for some reason they recently remade it. So
they did recently remake it. They did, yeah, with Elliot Page.
Elliot Page, right? Yeah. Like, okay, sure.
And I think Kiefer Sutherland had a cameo, and Diego Luna was in it too.
I didn't watch it. So.
Yeah. So we'll be back to talk about that next time. But that's it for this week's Backtrekking. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you like the show, tell a friend. You can follow us at Backtrekking on Twitter and tell us what you think we should cover on upcoming episodes of Backtrekking. Gooey, tell the people where they can find you online.
You can go check me out on Twitter. I'm at GooeyFame.
And I'm at K-A-1-I-B-A-N on Twitter. And you can find all the shows on the Just Enough Trope Network at Just Enough Trope on Twitter. And that's it for us. We'll see you soon. And until then, keep on trekking.